bring Rena Shaw back on the phone today. Rena, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully we can hear you now. Will you talk about the most important moments you think we've seen from this event today?
Sure. Thanks for having me. I certainly think this is an important day that if you're not tuning in, you haven't got anything better to do it because Iowa is going to be so important in this lead up. In the GOP primary right now, we're looking at such a crowded field, and we know that somebody's got to emerge from this. So here we sit less than 2 weeks out from the first debate of the GOP presidential primary process. And seeing these candidates take the stage in Iowa today really highlights a few things. Is that it's a really diverse field, first of all. And you've got people making the plea to Iowa voters because Iowa's got a really long nominating process. It's got 4 statewide events that includes the caucuses, which is followed by conventions at the county, congressional district, and state levels. That's combined with a 30-day notice that's required for events as well. So all that means is that candidates need a head start in Iowa. And it's got an early slot on the voting calendar for Republicans still. But for Democrats, they've changed their tune. In February of this year, Democrats decided to replace Iowa with South Carolina in the leadoff spot. And that's really a major shakeup intended to empower minority voters. But again, back to the Republican Party, which is, again, kicking off its presidential primaries in Iowa, what we're seeing right now is candidates talk about two Americas. From Ron DeSantis, you heard a lot of fear. You heard the exact phrase, America in decline. From Vivek Ramaswamy, you got a more hopeful vision. He leaned on his background as the kid of immigrants. He had his wife on stage. We've never seen her before at any big campaign event. Of course, she's accompanied him on the trail. But Vivek Ramaswamy, as he's surging in the polls, it's certainly looking like he's someone that could replace Ron DeSantis as the one to beat. Now, it's still too early to talk about that. But when we look at who's qualifying, again, for this first Republican presidential debate coming up in less than 2 weeks, we do see 5 people have fully qualified, and that's Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Vivek Ramaswamy, Doug Burgum, and Tim Scott. Now, Donald Trump, Mike Pence, and Chris Christie, they've met polling and donor thresholds. They just haven't signed the pledge that the RNC wants them to. And it's a Beat Biden pledge, which is a commitment to back the eventual Republican nominee, no matter who wins the primary.
And that will certainly be interesting if there are any last-minute changes to see if they will sign that pledge and then join the debate stage. Of course, a very big audience there, but if they don't, that is a moment for people like Vivek Ramaswamy and Mike Pence, who's even been dragging in the polls lately, to have that breakout moment. Will you talk a little bit about Donald Trump at the Iowa State Fair today? He's not speaking at any of the events officially, but of course, as always, has quite the following physically of people trying to get photos with him, talk to him. So he's not going unnoticed, of course. Will you talk a little bit about the strategy there and how you think that's going to play for him in the polls and with voters?
Well, Trump's presence in Iowa is important because he knows he can't skip it altogether. Here, in this moment right now, Trump knows that he is still the biggest figure. He is the former president, something that we as voters never discount. But we've not been in this situation in so long. For the modern, younger voter, we don't really know what to make of it. Why hasn't he backed out? He lost in 2020, didn't go silently into the night. And even today, when he spoke to reporters there in Iowa, he had to take questions about his legal woes, and they are not going away. Now, of course, historically, we've just also never been in a situation. The American modern presidency has never quite a thing. Somebody that is now under 3 indictments with a 4th potential indictment in the state of Georgia waiting in the wings. So whether the former president is going to be on the stage debate in Milwaukee at the end of this month, that's really the biggest question surrounding him and surrounding the debate itself. But Trump knows the strategy that he employs, what I call the spaghetti against the wall strategy, which is just seeing what sticks. He knows it actually serves him well because he looks strong. He looks like he's going to continue fighting and that he won't back down for the Republican voter. That still really plays well in the Republican base.
And as you can see, there's stage set for Marianne Williamson to come up in just a few moments. She and Robert F. Kennedy are on the Democratic side making some comments today. Will you talk about the Democratic Party a little bit and what you think the strategy is for these two candidates here? Obviously, we have incumbent President Joe Biden running. I mean, will you talk about what the strategy in play here might be for Williamson and Kennedy?
Well, for Kennedy in particular, this is his first rodeo. Marianne has been a fixture. Marianne Williamson's not maybe a household name, but for politicos, we certainly know the sort of spoiler effect that she can have, a la Jill Stein of many years ago. These are, again, to the average voter, not names that matter. But when you look at RFK, this is about doing more than just making some noise. It's about challenging the consciousness of the regular, everyday Democrat voter. And I think he's been quite successful in that so far. So what you can expect to hear from RFK, in my estimation, in Iowa, is really more of the why would you side with Joe Biden when you can do something fresh and new? And that really does gin up different conversations within the leadership of the Dem Party. It's no secret that Joe Biden, at the age of 80, is not only our only oldest president, but to be running a campaign this time requires a different type of endurance from him. His last campaign that he won, he was largely able to stay out of physical events because of COVID era restrictions. But now he's got that challenge of looking active and really vibrant. In many ways, his leadership has already sold itself. But when you look at these other make noise candidates, what I call them, RFK, Marianne Williamson, and of course Cornel West, you see that spoiler effect that could really deny the Democrats the White House again. And I think it's really important to take into consideration how the public feels about these people. Are they receptive to the messages of RFK, which again are bigger than just your sort of everyday kitchen table issues? They go to sometimes embracing conspiracy theories. We've seen him walk back some of the comments he previously made about COVID vaccinations and whatnot. I think it's an important time for folks to listen and tune in because these people are really going to not go away anytime soon. And that means they remain in the public sphere, influencing minds and winning over hearts.
Yeah, and as for the 5 people that are speaking today at the political soapbox, all of them are really up against some tough numbers if we're looking, cold and hard at where people are polling. Do you think any of these long shot candidates, whether they're Democratic Party or Republican Party, has any chance of really even getting close to, to being part of the end of the 2024 election, to really going the distance? Or, is this all maybe for naught?
Well, let's drill a little deeper and look at who's just recently met a polling threshold, which is required to be on the debate stage. Again, the polling threshold that the RNC wants is, well, let's talk about money for a second, 40,000 unique donors. And former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, another long shot candidate in this primary field so far, he was just able to have a super PAC that launched and urged viewers to donate $1 to help him secure his spot on the debate stage. Just the next day, he met that polling threshold, but his campaign has not yet said whether he's met the donor minimum. He's also spoken out against the pledge requirement, so that's an important note there. But then you look at Mayor of Miami, Francis Suarez, who's, again, not known nationally, but a really, again, unique voice in a similar fashion as Vivek Ramaswamy, injecting youth and new ideas related to technology and economy in particular into this sort of this talk that usually centers a lot, again, around what are the Democrats doing to our way of life. So centering on the cultural issues, which we've seen DeSantis do, we are seeing other voices go a little bit differently. Now, there's somebody who hasn't met the criteria, but did recently announce his candidacy, and that's former Congressman from Texas, Will Hurd. He's one of the most strident Trump critics in the race, and he was recently booed at an Iowa GOP gathering after he really ripped into Trump. Understand the reality of the party for attacks on a former president who remains popular with the base. So Hurd has told reporters that he's close to meeting the donor threshold, but he won't sign the pledge. And that says basically he won't be able to get access to a microphone on the debate stage.
Yeah, a very powerful opportunity and potential that is. Rena Shaw, we thank you so much for being here with us today. We have to take a quick break here on Scripps News, but on the other side of the break, GOP strategist John Hart will join us. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.